What is going on, YouTube? Hope you guys are doing fantastic. Today is support tier list day. We have not done one in a while to kind of show you guys what I think the support meta looks like for ranked. And this is going to be more of a ranked-centric patch or rank-centric tier list. Platinum up to like Diamond Masters. Probably a little bit of gold too if you consider yourself like a high-level gold player. We'll start with gods like Sobek, who in silver, bronze, gold is actually like an S tier, A tier character. I think once you hit gold, platinum, and stuff like that, I think he's about a C tier character. He gets punished really, really easily when people know that you can just kind of kill him whenever he plucks and then he doesn't have anything else to survive. He's also, even in those lower end games, he's really only an early game god. And even in that early game, he is not that good. Like, he loses a lot of 2v2s. Basically, he relies on getting an early kill in that 2v2 and then kind of snowballing where he's not useless, because if he is behind, then he is useless. But yeah, that's basically what it comes down to. Sobek will start it off with C tier. Next up, Aries. Aries is going to be a strong A tier god. He is actually doing a lot of damage IMO. He is very hard to deal with when he's ahead, and it's very easy for him to get ahead because his 2v2 is so very strong. I also think he's a hard carry support because you can build one power item like a Deso or a Magus, and this allows him to kind of 1v5. He still does have that weakness of being not too safe, but with knock immunity on the 3, alt giving you CC immunity, and the 2 giving you a lot of protections in HP 5. He does feel rather tanky even when you do catch him out. So Aries is going to be an A tier. RDO is going to be our first butthole tier because she stinks.
Boom. Roasted.
A god that needs to be ahead to do anything, needs levels to do anything, and needs to get gold into items to be effective. She doesn't get any of that in support. So even if she is kind of winning 2v2s or stuff like that, she's still going to be behind the enemy mid laner, still going to be behind the enemy jungler, the enemy solo laner, and then she's going to be ineffective because she needs to be ahead to be able to be as effective as possible. Athena, A tier. She is just kind of like the perfect rank god where the ranked style of picking one person off, she kind of stops, or if your teammate's looking to pick somebody off, you can help him pick them off with your ult. You can also camp one side of the map and then have your ult just ready for the other side of the map. It allows a lot of options. She has a pretty good 2v2. She does lose to some of the really strong 2v2 gods, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter that much. If you get to the mid game, you have a free dash taunt to pull relics or to sometimes even get kills. So I think Athena's a pretty strong rank god. Next up, Atlas. I think Atlas is actually pretty good in this meta with like one power item, like a Thebes Divine, Thebes Deso, Cloak Divine, Cloak Deso combo like that. And actually same with Bacchus. We're going to place both of these at the same time. They both kind of want to play the game the same way where they're engaging, getting a ton of damage off, maybe not killing anyone, but getting like both backliners or like 3 people down to at least half health for the jungler and the soul laner to clean up. They might die Atlas a little bit more than Bacchus because Bacchus has that flop for a lot quicker of an escape, and you can actually block Atlas Dash pretty easily, and usually you use Atlas Dash for engage. Both these characters just do that pretty well. Atlas is actually shredding protections in the ultimate, which I think is really underrated right now because of all these backline supports that are just giving protections to their teammates, and I think that puts Atlas in a slightly higher tier, and I also think he's just a better 2v2. I also don't know why I went so high with my voice. I could have just said like a slightly higher tier, but Atlas A tier, Bacchus B tier. Slightly higher tier, Baron S tier if you're playing against Yemoja. C tier normally. He is just a character that relies on counter matchups to be able to be effective. Mostly it's like Yemoja, but there's a couple others that he also does really well into. Sylvanas, Ymir, because they have no way to actually get away from him if they're getting pulled. Ymir can wall himself, but he's still an easy root target. Basically, does the character have a dash? If they don't have a dash, Baron has a solid matchup into them. And then Yemoja, he just makes it so he forces out beads from her. And then he's one of the few gods that can actually match her sustain in the 2v2. It makes it so he actually has a pretty good 2v2 into her. Other than that, he loses to nearly every other god. I think his build right now is fine because he's just building mask into some auras. But yeah, I think he's still only a C tier character against most gods. Cabrakan B tier. Cabrakan is usually a god you think of as a higher tier god when you're playing him in ranked. Unfortunately, the nerf to his damage on his 3 in 10.2 kind of ruined him a little bit. It made his laning phase just so much worse, because he used to be able to kind of out-trade enemies in their own wave with your 3 just because of how your ally was allowed to play the lane, because you had all the minions on you, they were all grouped on you, you were CCing the enemy at the same time. But I do think it's a lot worse now because the damage isn't really there. He's still, if he does get ahead, he's still very hard to deal with. If he goes blink and he gets to his, he has 2 defense items and then a Deso 3rd, he will actually get very close to one-shotting your backliners. But we'll keep him in B tier because I think he's not too safe. His 2v2, like I said, not as strong as it used to be. So I just think he's fallen off a little bit. Serb, kind of the same thing as RDO. You kind of want him to get ahead, He doesn't really do much in support. When you're playing him in solo, his damage is really effective because he's just got extra levels. His passive, he's going to be in the enemy's backline, so he's going to be able to make good use of his passive. And then he doesn't have to worry about his level 1, 2, 3 order. In support, he's got a really ineffective 1-2 because he's either all in with no jump or he's got his jump with his 1/his 2, which is just bad. In solo lane, you get to your 3 pretty quickly. You actually go into lane level 2. In support, you have to get level 2 off the first minion. So it kind of changes up how you want to do it with Serb. Cthulhu, F tier. He's an F tier character. We'll toss Jorm down here too. They're both guardians, but they don't really play support too well. Even though I love my squid, it's not their place. ESET, we'll put her right next to Baron. I think she's just like fine, kind of like Baron. She relies on counter matchups. She's got some really bad matchups, just like Baron has really bad matchups. She has got some good matchups, like Baron has some good matchups. She's really good into gods like Atlas, gods like Bacchus, where in laning phase he really can't do too much. If he starts burping, she silences him. If he flops, she wing gusts. And it makes it so he can't really use either of his abilities. But she also has, if she falls behind, she's a useless character because she just gets gone on. She has no safety. Her safety is in her ult, which is like, fight on me. But if she's behind, you don't really want to fight on her because she's behind. So it's, yeah, payoff. Next up, Fafnir. Fafnir with 2 ADCs is an S tier character. Fafnir with 1 ADC is a B tier character. Fafnir with 0 ADCs is an F tier character. It's been his story since the dawn of time. Do you have an ADC? Buff your ADC. That's Fafnir. We'll put him in B tier because usually you have 1 ADC. And we'll quick toss all the assassins here because I think right now they're all grouped in about the same area. To talk about them all as a whole, they're all reliant on getting ahead, and they can't do it right now. The 2v2 is very hard for them to win. A lot of these characters are better 2v2 characters than them. And then if they are behind, they have some uses still. Like Fenrir's got his ult to try to kill that one character. Naja has ult to try to kill that one character. Serket can pull beads with taunt and then also have ult to try to kill that one character. But if they're behind, people just kind of beads if they get ulted, or they'll ult the ult that they're getting hit by, and they'll just trade into you and kill you. If they do get ahead, however, they do a lot of damage and they are very effective, but it's just very, very, very hard for them to get ahead. So we'll put them into C tier. Ganesh, Geb, Capri, all in B tier. These 3 characters are going to be in B tier because they're like that 50%, like they are average characters. And if you pick these 3 characters, you're saying one thing: team, please carry me. Please carry me. I'm relying on you guys. If you guys play well, we'll win this game. If you guys play bad, we're going to lose this game. They really just allow your teammates to play a slightly easier Brand of Smite. Ganesh, you peel a little bit. You have a little bit of engage at the ult. Geb, you're giving one of your teammates that Geb shield, and you're also having a little bit of CC. Capri, you have a lot of setup. I think if I had to choose one of these that's a little bit more playmakery, I would say Capri, because he has a lot of CC. So if you're hitting your plucks when the enemy's blinking in, interrupting him, you're allowing your teammates to one-shot him. You also can ult yourself. You can ult others with Capri to give him a second life. These are mostly just, like, maybe you have an SPL. Maybe Haddix is in your game. He first pick, and you're in the morning queues, and you're like, okay, this guy can just 1v5. I'm going to pick Capri here, and I'm just going to let him run rampant, and we'll win this game. That's kind of what these gods are saying. Herc and Horus in B tier. Their cooldowns have been nerfed now a couple times. Regrowth has been nerfed a couple times. I think Herc especially is just better in solo right now, and I think Horus is just in a fine spot. They're both are kind of like these assassins where they want to get ahead. The thing is that they just do it a lot easier. They have really good laning phases, both of them. They pull beads very, very easily without committing an ult, unlike these characters. And then once you get to late game, they have a really easy way to play the game. Herc, you're trying to 2-1 the enemy front line into your team so you can one-shot them. And Horus, you're trying to 2-1 the enemy in front of you so your team can one-shot him. Kumba, F tier. I understand Aurora has played him in the SPL this year. And he has seen a game or two, but by golly, this character is useless. You are not a roar. Don't pick him. He is one of the worst characters in the game. He will be the worst character in the game for a while because he needs a re-kit badly. Kuzumbo, one of the worst characters in the game also. Difference is, his is just meta reliant. I think if this is a different meta where backliners weren't building so many auras to make their team super tanky, I think Kuzumbo could be actually sick. The problem is, if you're diving an enemy ADC or an enemy mid laner, they're sitting on 100 magical protections, and so your damage is not that useful. If those gods are down to like 40, 50, 60, and you're building like a Binding Divine Deso, something like that, I think Kuzumbo could be super effective, but this meta does not allow him to play the game. Our first S tier character for ranked, Maui. Maui can do literally anything and play the game however you want. Is your team ahead and you're winning? Okay, dive the enemy. Is your team behind and you need to play for picks? Okay, play for picks and use your one and use your ult for picks like that. Are you in the mid game? The game is even. Throw out an ultimate, get a 9-man ultimate, pull them all in, one-shot them all. Maui has a lot of things going for him where he's got a really strong 2v2. If he's in the mid game, he can pull relics really easily with his 1-3. In pick scenarios, he picks people off pretty easily. In late game, he can play the neutral fight really well. And he's also giving his teammates a lot of safety with his 2. Just make sure you are throwing out your ult and you're not holding it too much. Because if you're sitting on ult a lot, you're not making use of one of Maui's best features. So just make sure you're using it in team fights or to start fights. Even if you miss it, who cares? You got to be able to use the ult. And probably the best ranked support, in my opinion, Nox. The nerf to her ult really does nothing. 10% damage off the ult is not changing, or 10% damage the person who hit by this ability does minus damage. However you want me to say it. It doesn't do anything. The problem is her 1-2. There's 2 things that make Nox a good support. 1, her 1-2. 2, horrific. She uses horrific better than nearly any other character, and then her 1-2 combo is just busted. You don't even have to use it as a combo. You can just one somebody who doesn't have the ability to like if they don't have a cleanse like Chiron or Geb, you just one them, and then they're either forced into beadsing or they have to ult it because it's a root cripple, and it's for 2 seconds. And then the silence, you don't have to use it as a combo. If the enemy jungler blinks onto your backliner, you just toss your 2 at their feet and they're unable to use an ability. I think a better nerf to Nox would be nerf her combo. So the 1-2, instead of being a 2 seconds on each, it should be like 1.5 or maybe even 1 second, because that's her bread and butter in support. Once Horrific gets nerfed, it'll also hurt her a little bit, but for now, she's riding an S tier. I put Shiva here. Don't really know why. It's mostly because I find Shiva fun. Put him in F tier. Sorry, Mario. Sylvanas, A tier. He is a healer, and he has auras, and he can sit around his backline, and he's got a strong 2v2. That's basically the meta. Can you sit around your backline, and can you give them protections? Sylvanas can do that. Sylvanas does it well. He 2v2s well. His problem is he kind of gets picked. If you're kind of not grouping with your teammates, then you're a sitting duck a lot of the times, and you're not going to be that effective. Sylvanas is pretty teammate reliant, but you do have good CC. A lot of the times, if the enemy blinks onto your backline and you're sitting close enough, you can just insta-ult him, and your teammates will just pop him before he can do anything. Sylvanas, A tier. Terra is an S tier character if you can play her. She is pretty hard to use at like a really, really high level, but if you feel like you're a very high level player and you can play Terra at a high level, she is S tier. She is easily one of the best supports. She peels very well, engages very well, has good CC, has good safety. Her one weakness is having no immunity or no CC immunity in her kit. But even then, if you're getting gone on, a lot of the time you can ult once you get pulled in or CC'd or whatever, and you'll in turn get a 5-man ultimate on the backline, enemy backline, and it'll give your teammates a way to play the game. So I think Terra is incredible. She builds all the right items right now. Lotus Crown is busted, or Lotus Sickle is crusted. Lotus Sickle is busted, and she builds it, so it's S tier. Xing Chen, he can't really make good use of his kit right now. I don't really know why he feels so bad, but it's probably just because he gets one shot. Like, you try to like juke around with his 3 and make the enemy miss, and you can't really do that. I think Xing Chen is one of the worst characters for support. I think he could be okay in solo, but I think he's a pretty bad support. You also can't really get your 1 onto the enemy ADC, or if you do, you're blink 1ing, and then that's your engage. So yeah, I think Xing Chen's pretty bad. Yemoja, the same thing with Fafnir, except are you good with Yemoja? S tier. Are you mediocre with Yemoja? B tier. Are you bad with Yemoja? She is the worst character that you can pick. If you can't play Yemoja, pick Kumba. No cap. Yemoja is the worst character in support if you don't know how to play her. If you don't know how to play Kumba, you can learn Kumba in 13 seconds flat, reading his abilities. And the opposite cannot be said for Yemoja. Or the opposite can be said for Yemoja, where it takes probably 50 games to fully grasp Yemoja. It takes probably 5 games top to learn Terra, and everybody else is under 5 games. But we'll put her in B tier, assuming that you know her kind of well. Ymir. I think Ymir is actually pretty underrated as a support in ranked. He's got a really strong 2v2. His wall is absolutely busted when it comes to late game. He's got good objective confirm, which is actually really, really underrated for ranked because you're not relying on your mage to then secure. You can secure with like maybe a bomb ult or just your ult. So I'm going to put him in A tier. I think he's very, very good. The one weakness he has is he doesn't build Lotus Sickle. That's literally a weakness right now because that item is so busted. And lastly, we'll put Hell and Afro in S tier. Characters are busted. Flat out. They are absolutely broken. Their builds right now are the best builds in support. The mask into auras. They are very good in the 2v2. They scale really well late game. They have one weakness. What do you think their weakness is right now? Say it. I don't know. You probably were wrong because they're only weak when they're alone. So if you can get them by themselves, maybe they're wandering through your jungle, yeah, you can maybe get a kill. And then they group back up and you're not killing them ever again. That's their weakness. It's really annoying. I hate their reworks. I'm tired of them. The healer rework for these gods sucked. And there it is, the support tier list. These are your 10 best gods in my opinion. I actually really like this tier list. I think it's one of the better ones I've done. Let me know what you guys think. Who do you think is the best support in ranked? Drop it in the comments down below. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. See ya. Peace.